Texas Southmost College, which is now University of Texas Brown. Graduated there in 1979 with a degree in agricultural economics. I guess I'm a rancher and farmer by heart.
What made you go to law school?
My dad was an attorney, and it was one of those where I decided on my own. He never really forced me to, but I grew up in the courthouse since I was a baby, and the courthouse was my second home, and decided one day that there wasn't going to be enough money in ranching to live, so I figured I'd had to do my duty and go to law school and work with my dad.
Tell me about your law school career and what got you interested in criminal law.
I went to South Texas College of Law in Houston from 1981 to 1984. Graduated there. Very, very good experience. Very good school, I thought. It was standard. In the beginning, back in the early 80s, it was still evening classes. So I thought it was a good schedule because I was able to study during the day. I didn't work when I was in law school, so I studied during the day and prepared for classes. So by the time we got to classes in the evening, everything was good. As over the time period now, I think it's like an all-day and night school, and that was it. It was the criminal law portion of it, I guess, is probably mainly falls back on my father because that's all he did. He did a little bit of everything. He was a general practitioner, but kind of like all of us, probably 80%, 90% criminal is what he did, and that's what I grew up doing. In fact, I even worked in the Cameron County Sheriff's Office there in Brownsville as a dispatcher. One of my first jobs was a dispatcher at the Brownsville Police Department, and then I was working at the Sheriff's Office, and I went to the law enforcement, had my certification for a while, and worked with the Sheriff's Office for a while, and so I saw the law enforcement end of it for a few years while I was there in college in Brownsville, and so I had a background both ways on all perspectives. My dad was a judge, so I saw the judicial perspective, and then I worked on the law enforcement side a little bit, and of course he was a big defense lawyer, so I got exposure to all three angles.
How did you get involved with TCDLA, and tell me about the history you have with this association?
I went to, during law school, we figured out that there was the Texas Criminal Defense Lawyers Association meetings that were happening every year, and I think as law school students we were able to attend. Or it's kind of open the way it is now, I guess, but one year in particular, we went to the Shamrock Hilton in Houston. That's where the quarterly meeting was back in 80, whatever it was. And I guess my first, we knew who the big guys were, like Scrappy Holmes and the big players and the famous attorneys around. And one day, I'm probably the same size I was back then. I haven't grown any taller, but we walked into the elevator going up to go to where the meetings were, and the elevator opens, and there's Scrappy Holmes, and he must have been 10 foot tall to me. And so, I guess that started an impression of this is what we want. I want to do. I want to get into this organization and work my way up to the top, hopefully.
What was it like being president particularly the first president from the Valley? What was that experience like?
I don't think it was any different, Rick. It was being the first president from the Valley. There was one more president. Tommy Sharp was the president, as well as Knox Jones. But I guess I'm the first Hispanic president of TCDLA, and I can claim that title. Looking back at it now, I don't see any difference. I was just able to represent the Valley's point of view on the board and provide a different perspective geographically to the board of what happens in the Valley. But I also learned about all the areas of the state over the years. It's been an education for me both ways.
You read a lot about corruption And unfortunately, you read a lot about corruption in the valley. How do you explain that, and what's it like practicing down there in that environment?
What particular type of corruption?
You see public official
or
corruption.
law enforcement?
Particularly in law enforcement. How is it like practicing in an environment where people are accused of taking money, taking bribes, things like that?
Corruption that I've seen now is a little bit more prevalent in the valley, maybe, but it's becoming all around, statewide and nationwide. We're seeing a growing trend of especially public officials and people in fiduciary or responsible capacities, such as law enforcement officers, being corrupt and getting taken down. But they're also going to prison for a long time. A lot of them. I want to say it's surprising, but maybe not surprising anymore because we see so much of it. We've had one of our sheriffs in Cameron County get busted for drugs, and he's in prison for something like 15 years in the federal prison. I guess the answer to your question is that it's certainly disturbing, but we have to realize that it also in the law enforcement there have been many law enforcement officials who turned out to be bad apples, and it disappoints us, but we have to realize that they are human beings like anybody else, and we have to. It makes our job, or my job, more difficult by another parameter to be looking at in a case as to how do you handle this case, how do you handle this law enforcement officer, what's his history, is there any, and things like that. It's another dynamic to representing somebody is what's the role of the law enforcement in there.
Why criminal law, Bobby, is opposed to focusing on divorce or personal injury, or sometimes perceived as the more lucrative careers? Well, why do you focus on criminal?
I think that I'm effective in the area because of my knowledge in the past, and I really love it. And so I put my heart into it, and I put my time into it. And as compared to practicing family law or civil law, criminal law is relatively quick and painless. By that I mean we do our job, we get in, we do our job, and we get out. We're not bogged down in paperwork, and we're not bogged down for years. Our cases are, as you know, fast and furious, and most of it is in your head. Paperwork doesn't do you a lot of good. It's how you handle your case, how you represent your client, and what the outcome is for that client.
When you say most of it's in your head, what I take by that is it's your relationships with prosecutors, judges, your ability to communicate with jurors. Why do you think you're so effective communicating with those groups?
I think I'm effective communicating with those groups because
Let's start. I'm effective communicating with prosecutors, jurors.
Yes.
Okay.
I think I've been effectively communicating with prosecutors and jurors and the entire court staff by understanding that everybody has their own function, but understanding, I guess, personality-wise, how to get things done by not rubbing people the wrong way. For instance, there's a whole line of personality people that are real aggressive and want everything done, and that may not be the best way to do it. I'm of the opinion, and this, you bring up another subject that's kind of related to this, is personalities. And your personality determines how people see you and how people deal with you. And you give respect to prosecutors, and you get respect back. You can be a bulldog, and sometimes that's a brick wall. By the subject of personalities, I mean that's the most disturbing area to me of criminal practice. The whole system is based on personalities, and I don't know how to fix that, but I really don't like it. For example, one prosecutor in one court one day and can be a real jerk, and the guy or the girl in the seat the next morning when they move on can be completely opposite. And in that personality and that person determines your client's future, and depending on what kind of day they had. And then you also have judges the same way, and of course defense lawyers the same way. My whole point is that personalities, the variance in everybody's personality is the unknown factor in the practice of criminal law, because you never know who's in the chair that day and what kind of mood they're in. And that your client goes anywhere from free to life, depending on somebody's personality.
Tell me, you've been practicing now, Bobby, 20 plus years. If you had to pick out a single case, your most memorable courtroom experience, most memorable trial, who would it be, and tell us about the case?
My most memorable trial and most memorable courtroom experience was kind of unique. It was representing my father. He was an attorney and a judge in the past, and he had, in small towns, he had a client who was a political enemy of one of the judges back then, and the judge put him in jail. And over the weekend, there was a questionable issue about a PR bond or a bond situation, and everybody knows everybody in the small town. Well, this judge, the chief deputy of the sheriff's office, my dad called him that, hey, this guy, the bond's messed up or something. Some reason or other, the chief deputy issued a bond, a PR bond, for the defendant to go free and come back to court next week. Well, the judge found out about that, and he issued an order of contempt for my father. So, and it became political fodder around town. They had wanted posters of my father. That the political cartoonists would make wanted posters of my father with wanted by the county court of law judge. So, in that situation, you know what happens in contempt. You're entitled to an automatic bond, and there I am coming to the rescue to my father. So we tried the case and I won. So that was my most memorable court experience.
Tell me about your most heartbreaking loss. And we've all had them as criminal defense lawyers, but the case where you gave your best effort, you out-lawyered the prosecutor, but at the end of the day, the jury went the other way. If you had to pick a case or two, tell me about that experience.
Rick, you're asking me for my most heartbreaking loss or experience, and unfortunately I can't think of one at the moment. That's your answer.
Okay.
We'll come back to that.
We'll come back to that, because they'll edit this stuff out.
I don't lose very many cases, I guess. Maybe that's why.
All right. And I'm going to allow you to include your father in this, but I want to know the lawyers that have influenced your career the most, and especially the lawyer or lawyers that are members of the PCDLA that have influenced you the most.
The lawyers that over my career that have influenced me the most, I guess first and foremost would be my father. And back in the early days, I was exposed to, because of same thing, my father was in politics, and so I was able to meet everybody that was big in the legal, in the judicial community would come down. But I'd have to say most, Benny Ray from Austin Benny Ray was in Brownsville and Austin, and he was the one that signed my membership and encouraged me to join. And he's always been there, and he's still there. Gary Trichter and Benny, Troy McKinney, and many of the judges have all encouraged me over the years. But I can name a lot of big names, but I don't want to leave anybody out either. But as far as TCDLA is concerned, I qualify my answer with, I'd say Benny Ray and Gary Trichter were probably the two that pushed me the most. Not pushed me, but encouraged me and inspired me the most to get into this organization.
What is it about those two lawyers that gives you inspiration?
They have so much, both of them and others have so much enthusiasm, and they just spark you to want to be as good as they are and do as good as they are, and to focus on your client, and focus on the cases, and focus on your client and do good.
Bobby, tell me what your family means to you, and I know you're very, very close to your wife. In this practice, you see a lot of lawyers that have broken families, that don't have good relationships. What makes your relationship work?
My relationship works with my family very well, and I'll go back to other answers regarding personalities and just thinking. You have to think about your position and be responsible. It's very easy to get tied up in your work. I have many close friends in Brownsville who practice, who started out after me, and they see me leave the office in early afternoon if I'm done, and they see me out, not playing, but they see me enjoying myself and relaxing. And these guys come and say, for instance, one of them, my buddy says, I work every night till 10 o'clock. I said, how do you do it? I said, well, you can't do that. You need to leave your work at work as much as possible and prioritize your family. And tomorrow we'll be there. Sure, we all have deadlines, we have responsibilities, but you have to balance life, and you have to balance your practice with fun and relaxation and stress, not only for your health, but for the good of your clients, because in the end, your client suffers if you're stressed and not prepared to represent them. And family life is number one. And there's time for both. There's time for work and time for play.
And what's thinking about that heartbreaking case? When you go into to try a case, when you're getting ready to try one, you're walking in to pick the jury. For someone that's never gone through that experience before, tell me what you're feeling on the inside. What's it like when you stand up to pick the jury? Take me through the emotional stages of the trial. From the attorney's perspective.
The emotional stages of picking a jury come out. It's always, every case is different, and every fact situation and pattern is different, and so it's always a new experience to me, Rick. Every time you pick a trial, there's butterflies in your stomach. It's never. You always say you're going to be relaxed, and you always say the next. I'm going to do this and not get nervous and not get stressful. But for me, I wind up having everything in my head the way I'm going to try that case. I try the whole case in my head before I get there, of course. And when you sit down actually have the panel in front of you and start the direction of the trial. The trial starts. It usually takes a different direction than what's in your head, and then so you have to start adjusting your strategy, and then it makes me nervous because I'm headed one way and we're going another way. But in the end, it all works out because you focus on your main theme, and you know what your closing argument is going to be before you start, and you pattern your case after that. And all along the way, you have to just keep your cool and realize that get the focus back. You can control your trials. I think you can control to a certain degree where your case is headed, based upon your cross-examination and your presentation of witnesses. And again, I say the final argument starts first in my mind.
There's a lot of lawyers that don't try that many cases, and there's some criminal lawyers that really have never had a complete trial. They're reluctant to try a case. What do you say to those lawyers to encourage them to go into the courtroom and fight?
There are many lawyers who try a lot of cases, and there are many lawyers who try very few cases. I'm of the opinion, Rick, that I'm one of those. Because I guess I'm in a smaller community. I don't try as many cases, but there's also another reason for that. I don't believe in trying a case for ego, trying a case because I think I can win it. I analyze my client's position, and my job for my client is not to try a case for them. It's to get them the best possible result for them. And whether I think we can win the case is immaterial. It's what I got to limit the damage to my client. How do I limit the damage to my client? Is do what's best for him under the fact situation. Because it's very easy. We've all been in a position where we think, Rick, I don't believe. Well, strike that, I guess. My philosophy about trying cases is there are cases that need to be tried, but it's not always in my client's best interest to try a case. And I don't try a case so I can win it. I try a case because I have to. So the number of my cases is that I try is low, but the quality of my cases, on the other hand, is pretty fair, I think, because I know how to pick a good case to try to start with. But I don't let my ego get in the way of my client's best interest. If it's not in their best interest to try a case, then why do it? My job is to get them either a dismissal or something that's not on their record, or keep them out of jail in many cases. And all those factors go back into where we all started this conversation. It's personalities. How I get along with prosecutors results in how my cases are treated and how they treat me and how we resolve our cases. And every day with every prosecutor, you develop a relationship in every court. And wherever your client lands, you do a service or a disservice to your client by having personality problems with prosecutors. I guess the key to me is personality. But the trials that need to be had. But is it in your client's best interest to try a case? I don't care about my record when I hang up my shingle, or when I retire my shingle, that I had 2,352 trials. No, were my clients happy with my job?
Bobby, tell me what it's like when you walk in a courtroom, you prepared, you tried the case, you were the best lawyer in the courtroom, you should have won, and the jury goes the other way, and your client suffers their sentence to prison, what's it feel like as the lawyer to put forth that kind of effort and fall short? Because we've all been there. Tell me what that's like.
To be fully prepared for a trial, to go in and know that you have done the best, and you're going to do the best, and you've done your best, and you know the answers, and you expect to win, and then the jury goes the other way. It's very disappointing. It's you might call it heartbreaking, like you mentioned. The air gets let out of your balloon, for a phrase. You have to just go on, Rick. You can't dwell on it. We're not going to win every case. It's part of our job to handle the emotional ups and downs, because tomorrow morning there's another next door. There's another trial and another defendant, and you're just as prepared for that one, and you're going to do good on that. You can't win them all. That's the system is the jury system is what it is. It's 12 people who make a decision that may or may not agree with the way they saw your case, and it could be the best case, but we are all at the mercy of 12 people off the street, and we have to respect their decision and go on. You don't have to like their decision, but you have to respect their decision.
Tell me the other end of that spectrum. Going and having success, whether it's success after a verdict or it's success through negotiation, where the mother of the client's sobbing, they're hugging you. You've saved somebody. I mean, you've done that which you were called to do. Tell me about the emotions that go along with that experience.
To be able to save someone or win a case or something very similar, I guess, is to be able to save someone is the euphoria is immeasurable. I mean, there's nothing better, and that's those kind of wins and those kind of hugs from family members are the ones that give you the energy for the next 10 years.
Where do you see the practice of criminal law going the next 10 years? How do you think it's going to be different?
I see the practice of criminal law in the next 10 years as increasingly more difficult on the defense side. The lawmakers are slowly whittling away as we speak. Our opportunities and to prepare our opportunities to defend our clients. Roadblocks. There's more and more roadblocks will be in the way in the next 10 years, and if we can't win the fight in the courtroom, we'll have to maybe try to win it with lawmakers. Keep everybody's eyes open about our number one principle, which is freedom.
For the lawyer wanting to start a criminal defense practice, what would you say to a lawyer wanting to start in this business to help them be successful and to be there for as long as they could be?
I would tell the lawyer wanting to start a practice in criminal law to immediately join the Texas Criminal Defense Lawyers Association. And I do that now. And I say that not because I'm in the organization for any other reason other than it's true. The help and the people you meet in this organization is immeasurable. Not only coming to seminars and getting trained, but the people you meet in this organization, all of the membership, all of the people who have come before us and will come after us, are all very dedicated to the practice of criminal law. And I have learned, as I started out 25 years ago in this organization, I felt that I wouldn't be the same if I wasn't part of this organization, because there's the exposure you get to the Scrappy Holmes and the superstars just by meeting them, and they take you under their wing. We've all been taken under our wings by the big people, the superstars, I'll call them. We've all been taken under our wings by them, and you learn so much outside of the courtroom just by being with these people, and in addition to your practice, and you either like criminal law practice or you don't, I think. And so the people that ask me, I tell them, try it, and you're going to know if you're going to like it. So some people will never even try it. And we all know people who are career prosecutors that they have a different mindset than we do. You have to have a mindset to practice criminal law.
Where do you see Bobby Lerma going the next, well, for the latter half of your career? Where do you see your practice going? Where do you see yourself as an individual? Where do you see, or do you see any changes coming to Bobby?
I see for myself the same thing that I'm doing now. I foresee no changes in the way I practice. I completely enjoy my lifestyle. I balance work and balance play, and do enough to do the things the way I want to do them. I'm in control of being a solo practitioner, you can do that. I'm in control of my life, and I don't think I see any changes. I like what I do now. I like the way I do it, and I'm going to continue to do that.
Anything we haven't touched on, Bobby, that you think would be good for what we're doing here?
Not that I can think of, other than I guess I can close and kind of just philosophize a little bit, but it's been a very rewarding experience to be here. As I mentioned earlier in this interview, the benefit to me or anyone in this organization far outweighs the investment that you put in it. The time that we invest in this organization is greatly rewarded. I can't speak of the education I've had and the friendships we've developed by being here.
I think we got some good